Hey, what's up? I hope you're all having a good day or night, depending on where you are or what time you're watching this right now. So, tonight, I'm just going to be reading a bit more out of one of my Skyrim books. This time, it's going to be Volume 1, though. I'm going to read a little bit from this one. I'm going to read, like, kind of like towards the end of it, because this one's like the other book where it's not like one continuous story, just like a bunch of different stories and informative things kind of chopped up and divided, separated throughout the book, you know? So, figured I'd just kind of skip to the end of this one, and for this book, the end of Volume 1 is all about the dragons, so I'll be reading about dragons for the most part. So, yeah, but first, I'm gonna move the webcam down so you can, like, see the pages. So, first off though, I'm gonna take this down because every time I move the tripod that I set the webcam on, it falls every single time. So, just like, look at the book, look at the thickness of the book while I do this part. Okay. Just gotta twist it properly and all that. Okay, now let's see what we can see with this angle. Hang on. I know, gotta adjust it a little bit. Okay. Might have to go up a little higher, actually. Hang on. I almost got it. There we go. That's better. Okay. So, we are going to be going back to page. Here's the dragon section right here. So, back to page 212 is where we gotta go to. We're gonna start with the mysterious Aavir, and we're basically just gonna read story after story after story until I've read enough, I guess. So, yeah. So 212. There we go. Alright. Mysterious Aavir. This one's pretty short. I think it's only this page and then this little part here. So, this one's pretty short. Let me just kind of get it more in frame, though. There we go. That's better. Okay. Mysterious Aavir. Aavir means Dragonland. Tamriel means Dawn's beauty. Atmora means Elderwood. Only the Red Guards know what Yakuta ever meant. Aavir is the kingdom of the beasts. No men or mer live in Aavir, though men once did. These men, however, were eaten long ago by the vampiric serpent folk of Sassi, I think. Had they not been eaten, these men would have eventually migrated to Tamriel. The Nords left Atmora for Tamriel. Before them, the elves had abandoned knows what the Aaviri think of Tamriel, but ask yourself, why have they tried to invade it 3 times or more? There are 4 major nations of Aavir: Kamal, Sasi, Tangmo, and Capo Dun. When they are not busy trying to invade Tamriel, they are fighting with each other. Kamal is snow hell. Demons live there, armies of them. Every summer, they thaw out and invade Tangmo, but the brave monkey folk always drive them away. Once Adasum, dear Kamal, a king among demons, attempted to conquer Morrowind, but Almalexia and the Underking destroyed him at Red Mountain. Sasi is Snow Palace, once the strongest power in Aavir. Before the Tiger King, or before the Tiger Dragon came, the Serpent Folk ate all the men of Aavir a long time ago, but still kind of look like them. They are tall, beautiful, if frightening, and covered in golden scales, and immortal. They enslave the goblins of the surrounding isles, who provide labor and fresh blood. The holdings of Sasi are widespread. When natives of Tamriel think of the Aaviri, they think of the Serpent Folk, because one ruled the Cyrodiilic Empire for 400 years in the previous era. He was potentate Versailles Shai, assassinated by the Morag Tong. Tongmo is the Thousand Monkey Isles. There are many breeds of monkey folk, and they are all kind, brave, and simple, and many are also very crazy. They can raise armies when they must, for all the other Aaviri nations have, and one time or another try to enslave them. They cannot decide who they hate more, the snakes or the demons, but ask one and he will probably say snakes. Though once bitter enemies, the monkey folk are now allies with the tiger folk of Capo Dun. Capo Dun is the tiger dragon's empire. The cat folk here are ruled by the divine Tashraka, the tiger dragon. They are now a very great empire, stronger than Tasi, though not at sea. After the serpent folk ate all the men, they tried to eat all the dragons. They managed to enslave the red dragon, but the black ones had to at that point wait. They managed to enslave all the red dragons, but the black ones had fled to Botun. A great war was raged, which left both the cats and the snakes weak, and the dragons all dead. Since that time, the catfolk have tried to become the dragons. Tashraka is the first to succeed. He is the largest dragon in the world, orange and black, and he has very many new ideas. First, Tashraka says, is that we will kill all the vampire snakes. Then the Tiger Dragon Emperor wants to invade Tamriel. Alright, that's the end of that story. Now we're getting into the Book of the Dragonborn. And then there's this really cool picture. I'm too scared to turn the book around because I don't want to hit the leg of the tripod. But if you want to see it, just kind of flip your device over and then look at it upside down, I guess. Unless you're watching it on TV, then hopefully you can look at things upside down. But basically, here's a warrior right here, and he's holding a shield up to a dragon right here that's breathing fire right on him. His Majesty Plagueis the fifth, I think. I'm sorry, I haven't memorized my Roman numerals, but wait, no, 5 is just V. IV is that 6 or is that 4? I want to say it's 4, but I'm not positive. I'm not sure. But anyway, many people have heard the term Dragonborn. We are, of course, ruled by the Dragonborn emperors, but the true meaning of the term is not commonly understood. For those of us in the Order of Talos, this is a subject near and dear to our hearts, and in this book I will attempt to illuminate the history and significance of those known as Dragonborn down through the ages. Most scholars agree that the term was first used in connection with the Covenant of Akatosh, when the blessed Saint Alicia was given the Amulet of Kings, and the dragon fires in the Temple of the One were first lit. Akatosh, looking with pity upon the plight of men, drew precious blood from his own heart and blessed Saint Alicia with this blood of dragons, and made a covenant that, so long as Alicia's generations were true to the dragon blood, Akatosh would endeavor to seal tight the gates of oblivion and to deny the armies of Daedra and undead to their enemies. The Daedra-loving Aliads maybe, those blessed by Akatosh with the dragon blood, became known more simply as Dragonborn. The connection with the rulers of the empire was thus: there from the beginning, only those of the dragon blood were able to wear the Amulet of Kings and light the dragon fires. All the legitimate rulers of the empire have been Dragonborn. The emperors and empresses of the first Cyrodiilic Empire, founded by Alicia, Remen Cyrodiil and his heirs, and of course Tiber Septim and his heirs, down to our current emperor, His Majesty Plagueis Septim. Because of this connection with the emperors, however, the other significance of the Dragonborn has been obscured and largely forgotten by all but scholars and those of us dedicated to the service of the blessed Talos. Who was Tiber Septim? Very few realize that being Dragonborn is not a simple matter of heredity. Being the blessing of Akatosh himself, it is beyond our understanding exactly how and why it is bestowed. Those who become emperor and light the dragon fires are surely Dragonborn. The proof is in the wearing of the amulet and the lighting of the fires. But were they Dragonborn, and thus able to do these things, or was the doing the sign of the blessing of Akatosh descending upon them? All that we can say is that it is both and neither. A divine mystery. The line of septims have all been Dragonborn, of course, which is one reason the simplistic notion of it being hereditary has become so commonplace. But we know for certain that the early Cyrodiilic rulers were not all related. There's also no evidence. There's also no evidence that Remen Cyrodiil was descended from Alicia, although there are many legends that would make it so. Most of them dating from the time of Remen and likely attempts to legitimize his rule. We know that the blades, usually thought of as the emperor's bodyguards, originated in Aavir crusaders who invaded Tamriel for obscure reasons in the late First Era. They appear to have been searching for a Dragonborn. The events at Bell Pass bear this out, and the Aavir were the first to proclaim Remen Cyrodiil as Dragonborn. In was the Akaviri who did the most to promote his standing as emperor, although Remen himself never took that title in his lifetime. And of course, there is no known hereditary connection between Tiber Septim and any of the previous Dragonborn rulers of Tamriel. Whether there can be more than one Dragonborn at any time is another mystery. The emperors have done their best to dismiss this notion, but of course the imperial succession itself means that at the very least there are two or more potential Dragonborn at any time. The current ruler and his or her heirs. The history of the Blades also hints at this, although little is known of their activities during the interregnum between Remen's empire and the rise of Tiber Septim. Many believe that the Blades continued to search out and guard those they believed were or might be Dragonborn during this time. Lastly, we come to the question of the true meaning of being Dragonborn. The connection with dragons is so obvious that it has almost been forgotten. In these days, when dragons are a distant memory, we forget that in the early days, being Dragonborn meant having the dragon blood. Some scholars believe that was meant quite literally, although the exact significance is not known. The Nords tell tales of Dragonborn heroes who were great dragon slayers, able to steal the power of the dragons they killed. Indeed, it is well known that the Akaviri sought out and killed many dragons during their invasion. And there is some evidence that this continued after they became Remen Cyrodiil's dragon guard. Again, the connection is to dragons. The direct predecessor to the Blades of today. I leave you with what is known as the prophecy of the Dragonborn. It often said to originate in an Elder Scroll, although it is sometimes also attributed to the ancient Akaviri. Many have attempted to decipher it, and many have also believed that its omens had been fulfilled, and that the advent of the last Dragonborn was at hand. I make no claims as an interpreter of prophecy, but it does not suggest that the true significance of Akatosh's gift to mortal kind has yet to be fully understood. Okay, so here's the prophecy. When misrule takes its place at the 8 corners of the world, when the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the thrice blessed fail and the red tower trembles, when the Dragonborn ruler loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered, kingless, bleeding, the world eater wakes and the wheel turns upon the last Dragonborn. Well, okay, wait. Okay, we'll do one more story. We'll do this one, the Dragon War, because it's just this page. I think, yeah, it's just this page. Whew, okay. Wait, let me move the microphone, sorry. In the Merithic era, when Iskmor first set foot on Tamriel, his people brought with them a faith that was worshipped animal gods. Certain scholars believe these primitive people actually worshipped the divines as we know them, just in the form of these totem animals. They defied the hawk, wolf, snake, moth, owl, whale, bear, fox, and the dragon. Every now and then you can stumble across the broken stone totems in the farther reaches of Skyrim. foremost among all animals was the dragon. In the ancient Nordic tongue, it was Dra-Kakan. Occasionally, the term Dova Ra is used, but the language or derivation of that is not known. Using either name was forbidden to all except the dragon priests. Grand temples were built to honor the dragons and appease them. Many of them survive today as ancient ruins haunted by Draugr and undead dragon priests. Dragons being dragons embraced their role as god kings over men. After all, they were not fashioned in Akatosh's own image. Or after all, were they not fashioned in Akatosh's own image? Were they not superior in every way to the hordes of small soft creatures that worshipped them? For dragons, power equals truth. They had the power, so therefore it must be truth. Dragons granted small amounts of power to the equals, or they granted small amounts of power to the dragon priests in exchange for absolute obedience. In turn, the dragon priests ruled men as equals to the kings. Dragons, of course, could not be bothered with actually ruling. In Atmora, where Iskamor and his people came from, the dragon priests demanded tribute and set down laws and codes of living that kept peace between dragons and men. In Tamriel, they were not nearly as benevolent. It's unclear if this was due to an ambitious dragon priest or a particular dragon, or a series of weak kings. Whatever the cause, the dragon priests began to rule with an iron fist, making virtual slaves of the rest of the population. When the populace rebelled, the dragon priests retaliated. When the dragon priests could not collect the tribute or control the masses, the dragon's response was swift and brutal. So it was the dragon war began. At first, men died by the thousands. The ancient texts reveal that a few dragons took the side of men. Why they did this is not known. The priests of the Nine Divines claim it was the Akatosh himself that intervened. From these dragons, men learned magics to use against dragons. The tide began to turn and dragons began to die too. The war was long and bloody. The dragon priests were overthrown and dragons were slaughtered in large numbers. The surviving dragons scattered, choosing to live in remote places away from men. The dragon cult itself adapted and survived. They built the dragon mounds, entombing the remains of dragons that fell in the war. They believed that one day the dragons would rise again and reward the faithful. Interesting. So, yeah, when you play Skyrim, you see a bunch of these dragon tombs, and like Alduin comes and like raises some, and that's when you fight like skeleton dragons and stuff. It's pretty cool. Like when I can connect stories from this book to the game, it's pretty fun. But anyway, that's the last story for tonight. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all like hearing about dragons because, well, you just did. So, so yeah. Anyway, again, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to keep reading from stories from this book or one of my different Skyrim books, whatever you want. So, yeah. I hope you all have a great rest of your day or night. I hope you all are feeling much more relaxed and sleepy, that's about it.